Welcome back to RBD Block Challenge. I'm Cindy Cloward, and today we are working on block number 16, the last block in this RBD Block Challenge. It's called Point the Way by Gerri Robinson. And you can see we've got half square triangles, flying geese, square and a square. We're bringing in all your skills on this particular block. This is what it looks like in our confetti cottons, and this is what it looks like in our expressions batiks. So you know the drill. You download the pattern from the Riley Blake Designs website, Point the Way, and let's get started on this fun quilt block. I've cut out all my pieces, and the first thing it has you do is make your half square triangles. So you're going to grab your A and your B squares, and you're going to make, let's see, you're actually going to make 2 at a time method. And so you're going to have 10 half square triangles, but you're only going to need 9. So let's get started on these. We've got a short animation of half square triangles. I'll meet you back here when they're all made. Okay, I'm giving these one last press. I've already trimmed them down to 2.5 inches. I've cut off my dog ears, so they should all measure 2.5 inches square. And like I mentioned, we only need 9. We don't need the 10th, so that's going to be extra. So those are ready to go. The next thing we're going to do is assemble our flying geese. So we take our E rectangles and our D squares, and we also have another short animation video for you to watch on flying geese, and I'll meet you back here with my finished flying geese. All right, we've got all our flying geese. They should measure 2.5 inches by 4.5. You can always give them a quick check with your ruler. So let's take a look at this. What you want to see, you want to line the center line up. Make sure your point, you've got 1/4 inch from the top, and then you've got your 2 sides. Now I can see that. Just going to trim everything outside of that. And we love our Sue Daly rotating mat for that. So we're going to trim there. So that's good to go. Let's just check out, and we've got 6 of these. So let me just give them all a check and a trim if needed. Okay, let's put this away, and we've got our flying geese prepared. The next and last unit we need to prepare is the square and the square. So we're going to take our big green square, our F square, and then we grab our C smaller squares. And a reminder to mark corner to corner. That's going to be your stitch line if you don't have a Seam Sew Easy guide. But since I have a Seam Sew Easy guide, I'm going to take it, I'm actually going to take it to my pressing station, make a temporary heat adhesive, and then take it to my sewing machine, and I'm just going to sew, lining up the tip with the needle and then the tip below here on that center line on my Seam Sew Easy guide. So down one side and flip it to the other. repeating that same thing. Okay, let's take it back to our cutting station and grab your 1/4 inch plus and trim down to 1/4 inch from the seam. Okay, I'm going to take these over to my pressing station. It's the flip and turn method. Just open that up. Let that cool off. Now I'm going to put these on the opposite corners, and I'm just going to give it another press for a temporary heat adhesive. There we go. All right, let's trim down. Quarter inch on each side. Then we're going to take it to our pressing station. Got some scraps. I'm going to set my seams a little bit. And we'll open it up like that. Right, look how good that's looking. Now this is supposed to measure 4.5 inches, so you can get your little trim up ruler. And again, you just line up those 4 corners or points. Make sure they're in the 1/4 inch seam allowance, and you don't need to trim up at all. Looks like one of these I'm just going to trim slightly. So that's lined up. Just ever so slightly, and then I must have taken a less than a 1/4 inch seam or not lined up something there because I need to trim a little bit more. Okay, and our square in a square unit is finished. More to come about these square to square units for finishing the quilt, because you'll be making more of these, but for this quilt block we only need to make 1. So I'll clean up my workstation and then let's lay out according to the pattern. We've got 3 halves or flying geese going towards the square in a square. Now you can see why it's pointing the way, and they're going to go like this. We're going to need to sew these 3 together, and then these 3 together. And then we're going to lay out our half square triangles like this. And we'll be sewing those together. There we go. And then, like I said, we have 1 extra, so we'll put that over there. So we'll flip those over. We'll work on this unit first, taking it over to our pressing station. And you can choose to pin right now. There's no nesting seams at this part, so you just kind of line everything up. And again, you can toss a pin in. That would be helpful to you. Okay, let's open that up. I don't cut my threads in between. And we're going to flip that over. Again, no nesting seams, but since I didn't cut my thread, it becomes a little more fiddly. So I am going to put a pin on the top of each one of these. Okay, let's go sew. All right, let's bring this back, open it up. have 2 more seams. So this is where we're going to nest our seams. And you just see where your seams want to go. That wants to go that direction. So let's just click those seams into place. Throw a pin on it, in on it, right there. There we go. All right, let's open that up. Flip that over here. That seam's going that direction, so let's flip this one here. 2 more pins. All right, let's open it up, take a look. Let's go give it a good press. I'll just set our seams a little bit. Oh, flip that seam, open it up. And it's looking so good. What we want to see, let that cool off under a clapper for a minute, a few seconds, is we want to see those points just touching right there. And we want to see that we have a 1/4 inch seam allowance up top and on the side, so they don't get cut off in our seams when we assemble this with the other pieces in our block. So we'll bring this back here. That's ready to go. Now it's time to work on our flying geese, sewing them together. And kind of just work 2 units at a time. Actually, I'm going to flip them over. Anytime I can see my point when I'm sewing to make sure I'm not cutting that off is a good thing. Okay, let's clip in between. You can press now or you can wait till you sew the other flying geese on, but take a look, make sure it's just how you want it to be. You want to see that point right at the edge of the next flying geese, but not cut off, and that looks great. So we're just going to put on another flying geese, just like that. That's going to be ready to go. Just like that. Again, flipping it over and not cutting off your points. Okay, let's clip our threads in between. Now we're ready to take it to our pressing station. Looking good. So I'll work on 2 at a time, pressing them open. Okay, let's take them back here. And they should line up. This should be 6.5 inches. You can get your square up ruler, but if that's lining up to this, that's good to go. That should be lining up here. So I'm going to, we have 2 points there, so just make sure those are lined up. So kind of flip that back. And make sure those are lined up. I'm going to put a pin in the center. And you can choose which side you're going to put on top. Okay, the next step we need to do is sew a seam down here. Now, if you look at the pattern, and I don't think I mentioned this before, it tells you which way to flip your seams so they will nest when you get to this point. So all the seams on the flying geese are going that direction, and then the seams of the half square triangles are going this direction. So they nest perfect. So let's just put a pin in those intersections. And then you're not going to nest on top. They're flipping the same direction, but that's okay. We'll just line it up. There's a little bit of bulk that you'll have to ease your machine over, but if you go slow, it'll work out fine. Okay, I'm going to clip my threads in between. And you can take it to your pressing station. Now, the pattern will tell you to open up these seams. There's a lot of bulk in here, and so you can choose to open up your seams right here, or you can choose to flip them to one side. I think I'm gonna choose to flip them to one side, so I'm gonna flip them to the purple side, the magenta. So that looks good. This is what we want to see. We want to see those points right here, continuous, run across there. So that looks really good. Again, the pattern tells you to open up those seams. And it's up to you. There's a lot of bulk right there. So you can choose to open them up. Or mine just kind of want to lay to one side. So I'm going to let them. I'm going to let them. And now we're going to put these two units together. Again, the flying geese should be going towards the center, and all these magenta half square triangles should be pointing to the center because they're pointing the way, right? So we're going to line those up. If you've opened up your seams, just line them up. I chose not to. I'm going to nest those seams right there. I'm going to put a pin in it just right like that. Put an outside pin in it. Got our little bird pins. We're just nesting our seams. And we love to do that. Okay, again, lining this up. They should be nested if you press them the right way. So just nest those seams right there. I love how this block is coming together. It's just a fun block, and if you press the right way, it turns out really well. So let's, okay, again, those are not going to nest. They're flipped the same way. That's okay. They're just a little bit of bulk that you need to ease your machine over. All right, let's take it over to our pressing station. Let's take a look. This is what we want to see. We want to see that lined up. And again, there's a lot of bulk coming together. You can choose to open up this last seam that you just sewed, or whatever you feel like doing. Okay. And you're not going to rush through pressing. There's a lot of intersections here, so let's just slow down and press. Okay, very good. What a fun block. The last thing we need to do is square up our quilt block. And you do need to be careful when you're pressing not to use too much moisture to stretch your fabric, because there is some bias pieces on here. But it is looking good. I think I just need to trim a little bit right here. Maybe a little bit on the top. Let me adjust it slightly. Mostly threads right there. Okay, and our Point the Way quilt block is finished. I love how this quilt block turned out. So if you've been following along and sewing along with us, congratulations. This is the last quilt block, and I'm giving you a sneak peek behind me of the finished quilt. So join me next time for the finishing of all these RBD Block Challenge quilt blocks.